This is the third open forum interview for the Vice President of Business and Administrative Services with candidate Dr. Christian Teeter.
I am working now as a Chief of Staff at UC Berkeley in a division called Teaching, Learning, Academic Planning and Facilities, which has an $85 million budget, about 1,500 employees when you add up all the faculty and the staff and student employees, spanning across the campus in different areas, from academics to facilities planning to general administration. It's been really a very exciting opportunity, and we're actually embarking on some new direction, which is also going to be exciting. But the reason I'm here today is because I've spent 6 years working in the community colleges in Southern California, and when I saw this opportunity arise here on this campus, I really wanted to go for this position and leverage all of my experience from community colleges at Coast Community College District, where I worked as the Secretary of the Board of Trustees. So I had a very exciting opportunity working with the board and doing a whole bunch of issues related to the traditional governance of the district, which is the basic functions. But then lots of other exciting projects such as personnel administration, budgeting, land development, accreditation, student advising and services, and also a lot of policy work dealing with legislative advocacy and other things related to the community college vision and mission. The times that I worked in were challenging budget times, and while they were very difficult times, they provided a lot of great experience because we had to think creatively about our finances and about the issues confronting us to find the best solutions to serve the students, which is what the colleges are all about. I'm really excited about the possibility of working in the community college system because I feel that in the community college system, we, and I, as an administrator, I can make a much greater impact in my work. The students are closer to us. The work that we do impacts them more directly. The services that we provide are broad. They're serving many different groups. There's a tremendous level of diversity. And I really believe that community colleges can solve a fundamental problem in our society today, which has to do with the issue of unemployment and opportunity. I'm sure many of you have been aware of the concerns that have arisen in the community with, for example, the campaign to raise the minimum wage and the recent campaign to raise fast food workers' minimum wages to $15 an hour. And I really believe in this, and I support those causes, but I think those causes are derived from a fundamental challenge that we have in our society, that our labor force does not have the skills that is needed to be competitive in a global economy. And because of that, we have many companies that have sent work overseas, outsourced jobs, and through globalization and other things that have really made it difficult for people who may not pursue a traditional baccalaureate degree, or for individuals who want to get vocational training to find jobs that can give them a middle class lifestyle. And so I really believe that the colleges, through their commitment to vocational education, are central to this mission. And I feel as a professional, as a higher education administrator in my current assignment, I feel that something is missing, and that I would like to be a part of that problem. I'd like to be working in the community, working with the management here to promote opportunities, promote new training programs to help people achieve their goals, and to work with our local community, with corporations, about bringing jobs here, about finding things that companies need, to really transform the labor force so we can be competitive in a globalized 21st century economy. So this is really why I'm really interested in coming back to the community colleges. I feel that we can make a real impact, and that we have a golden opportunity to make these changes. Politically, President Obama has realized that there is an issue with the fact that so many jobs have been lost. He's the one that coined the term insourcing, encouraging companies to bring jobs back. And I think vocational training provides a significant way for us to create new jobs and to bring synergies so we can be more competitive. So on a high level, this is why I'm very interested in coming back to community colleges. In my role as the Secretary of the Board, as I mentioned, I had a very broad experience where I got to do a lot of very significant personnel issues, national recruitments for chancellor, opportunities to work on high-level budget issues, staff development and growth, and really just getting involved in many different areas, accreditation, land development, working on new buildings, and I'm excited to see the construction here, and I'm very optimistic about the bond that's going before the voters in June. So I'm really excited about leveraging all of my experience, my budget management expertise, my personnel experience, my experience in understanding facilities management issues, and just community college administration, about building budgets, meeting the requirements that we have to meet, like our 50% law, our faculty obligation number, trying to understand issues that our students have and the concerns of our faculty and our staff, and how we can build the best team environment here. So I'm excited about becoming the Vice President of Administrative Services and thinking about ways in which we can provide the best customer service that is possible to the organization. I've talked to the search committee and to Peter about bringing people together on campus and getting working groups on, like in the unit that if I was to be offered the job, the unit that I would take, I would like to get people together and talk about issues in ways that we can serve the organization better and provide new opportunities for people to engage, to be heard, and to raise suggestions and ideas, so we have opportunities for kind of more of a community atmosphere in our management ranks. And so I'm really excited about taking everything that I know about management and really kind of leveraging it to the fullest here to provide a very constructive work environment that is one that is focused on service, transparency, and a commitment to the students and really helping them advance their causes, because we can't really do anything as a campus unless our administration runs really well. We know about our budget, we know about the policies that we're supposed to follow, and we know about the legal changes that are affecting community colleges. And as the top administrator of this organization, that would be my main obligation to all of you, is to keep everyone aware of these things and to bring things to your attention, to keep you informed, and to assure you that you're receiving the best service that is possible to be provided. So I don't want to spend too much time. I know I want to take your questions, but I really just wanted you to understand why I'm here today, why I'm interested in this job, and how I would like to contribute to your organization. So I want to thank you for hearing me and for the opportunity to be here today. I'm very grateful. Thank you. I'll take your questions now.
Go Bears, right?
Go Bears, yes. Or go Vikings, actually.
You hit on a lot of topics just now, and I have some questions that I already have pre-written, and you touched on some of these already, but I guess a more detailed accounting. Your experience in revenue generation on a campus, and it's interesting that you're at Cal, because the athletic department there really went through a lot of changes there in terms of their funding structure. And I don't know if you were part of that or not, but as a campus, I'm sure they've gone through. So in terms of revenue generation at this level, as you see legislative change happen and really chasing FTES, and all of the other things that we have to consider in terms of bringing revenue in to now fund things that we've always been funded for and maybe not being funded for, what do you see the future of that?
Yeah, when I was speaking with Peter and Chris this morning, we were talking about the COLA and the growth and the challenges of those opportunities, because they're more limited than they had in past years. I mean, at some point in my previous assignment, we would get COLAs of 5 or 6% in a year, and I think those times are behind us, and I don't see us getting that. So I think in terms of raising revenue, obviously, what is the College Foundation? What are some of its strategic initiatives? What are things that it's looking at? And that's something that I would love to provide input in and try to understand. I think the other significant thing, the issue of FTES and managing FTES, the fact that we do have an improving economy and a stronger economy in the Bay Area related to other parts of the state, that means that maybe perhaps going back to school is not on the table for as many people, so they may not be going back to school. So we need to think about creative ways to promote the college's programs, to encourage more students to enroll, and so forth. That would be something else. We are dealing with that now, for example, in terms of revenue generation. One of the units that generates revenue in my department is UC Extension, so that we have that unit in my group, and we're struggling with that issue right now because all of our projections are down from where they were because the economy's improved and not as many people are going to sign up for courses. I'm a little bit worried because I teach at Extension and I have a strategic planning class coming up, and it may not be as fully subscribed as I thought it would be. But that being the case, so what are some types of creative programs that can be created to attract new students? One of the joys of having a doctorate degree and teaching a lot on the side is that I feel comfortable having those kinds of conversations, and I like having conversations. So even though I'm focused on managing budgets and doing administration, I love to talk about programs. I just, for example, encouraged UC Extension to think about creating a new program related to international trade because they don't have that. And because I was just talking about globalization, so much of what people work on today is related to global issues and so forth. So that could be an opportunity for them to create something that would raise enrollments or attract more students. So we have to be creative about types of programs, and then I'm not, obviously not an expert on this campus just yet, but I would want to find ways where revenues can be created. Creating new programs, bringing in additional funding sources, working on competitive grants. I know one of the things that was a major disappointment was that President Obama's Community College Initiative did not pass. But out of that came many different types of programs through the Department of Labor that would help find seed money to start new programs. And there'd be, I don't know if this college is focused on that, but it requires basically a consortia of institutions to apply. So working on one of those types of grants could be good, and then working with the foundation, for example, to find outside funds or partnerships with local corporations to maybe further develop these programs. So it is a long conversation, but it's something that I'm quite comfortable with. I enjoy it. I love talking about academics. I love talking about opportunities and finding ways to bring in the revenues that perhaps we don't see now. We can't just rely on the state. We have to be creative. I know in my current assignment in the organization at Berkeley, we only receive about 11% of the money now in our budget from the state. And the total budget there is $2.2 billion. So organizations are having to adapt and evolve, and so this is something that's important. We've also moved away at Berkeley from incremental budgeting to more of an all funds budgeting approach, which means that if you have fungible funds, they can be moved anywhere across the campus. And this is helpful in terms of meeting strategic initiatives and creating new programs and meeting needs of students or faculty and so forth. So I love to kind of roll up my sleeves and be creative. And kind of just to close out the response to this question, at my previous position, I was very focused on issues of revenue. The board was very concerned about it. One of the things, we were very fortunate, we owned a private corporation that was called Coast Community College District Enterprise, which operated swap meets at Orange Coast and Golden West College. And it had a profit of about $1 million a year, and I was working with the board. I was actually assigned a position on that board as the secretary of that, and also was vice chair for a short period of time. And one of the things that we did was we took some funds to create some new academic programs based on that revenue. It was not an easy thing to do because we had to make sure that the legal obligations to run a swap meet and the codes and things were followed, but we were able to take some funds to open up programs. So we need to be entrepreneurial and think about other ways to raise revenue, and I would like to engage in those conversations and use some of my skills and some of my experience to have those conversations. And I'm actually working on a task force about intercollegiate athletics right now, which is very exciting because we're trying to find barriers that limit students' academic success. So it's quite an exciting project to work on. So it's something that is dear to me. So thank you.
You were mentioning about athletics and student success. If
Yes.
you can elaborate a little bit on that
Absolutely.
one before we go to the next question.
So you may have read in the San Francisco Chronicle that UC Berkeley has struggled with its athletic graduation rates and is actually very, very low. And so we have a new chancellor, Nicholas Dirks, and he has established a task force. He actually has two task forces going that are both actually supported by my unit. There's one on undergraduate education and one on athletics and academics. So I was tapped to support and staff the Athletic and Academics Task Force, which consists of faculty members, athletic representatives, community members, and some alumni. And also someone from, a colleague from Stanford that was active in our programs. So the main issue that we're trying to find out is what are the barriers that prevent academic success? Okay, what's happening? So for example, the fact that the Pac-12 contract requires games on certain dates. Well, how does that impact student schedules? Are they even going to class because they have to travel to meet these game time requirements? What about our scheduling? You know, how is the registrar scheduling courses such that students can get options or not to even have their courses that they need to graduate? Okay, because we found that many students are not graduating. Other things that we're looking at is admissions. Are we actually admitting students that are qualified to graduate from Berkeley? Are we really doing that? Okay, who's recommending these students? What are their standards for it? How are they being recommended? What's the role of coaches in recommending students? And really, are these recommendations proving to be credible, or are we having a lot of recommendations for students that will not succeed? So we're trying to understand that. We're trying to understand incentives that coaches have in their contracts. Are they having incentives just to win games and championships, or do they have incentives to graduate students and to ensure academic success? Okay, my alma mater, Colgate University, has the top scholar-athlete graduation rate in the country. This is something that's very dear to me as an academic professional. Are we really giving people the incentives so that they can have their teams actually graduate in addition to winning on the field? So these are some of the issues that we're trying to focus on. We're also looking at the relationship of tutors and graduate assistants with respect to scholar athletes. One of the main units that is related to all of this is called the Athletic Studies Center. That's one of the units in my group. And so we're also looking at that. And, do they need more resources? Do they need more staff to advise students? Are there enough people? For example, an advisor in the Athletic Studies Center might be responsible for 150 different scholar athletes. Is that really a manageable load? Can you really advise students and help them graduate with that many people? Shouldn't it be more like 50 to 1 instead of 150 to 1? So these are the kinds of questions that we're working on, and out of this would come a report that would recommend some strategic changes to the way that things are done. And whatever that the outcome is, I do not know yet. We haven't found all the information that we want. We're also planning site visits to Stanford and UCLA to try to understand what those programs are doing, because we're not reading the same less than positive things about their programs. So thank you.
So I was just wondering what your leadership style philosophy is.
Sure.
Can you just kind of explain a little bit?
So I practice servant leadership.
Greenleaf.
I'm sorry.
Greenleaf.
Yeah, Robert Greenleaf, 1977, servant leadership. So this is something that is a main focus for me. I really believe in a learning environment. I believe that learning and professional development has to be a major hallmark of a management style. So as I explained to the search committee the other day, I don't see this as just work. This is not just a job. This is about transforming lives. This is a learning organization, and where we can really change people's careers, their learning, and have huge impacts on what they accomplish. So in a learning organization, it's about growth. So I'm very focused on professional development, training opportunities, and obviously budget permitting, different types of initiatives. But I do practice that, in all earnest with my work. It's something that has served me well, both in the Coast Community College District and at Berkeley. It's really focused on staff development and providing a healthy work climate. I'm currently facilitating a task force on equity and inclusion in my unit at Berkeley, so a lot of these principles that I apply in my management, I'm trying to apply in the work that I'm doing with the task force, so we can make some strategic recommendations to the Vice Provost about ways that we can improve the climate in our unit and provide more opportunities for staff, and for staff to feel that they're fulfilled and that they have opportunities for growth, that the work that they do is valued and appreciated, and that they feel that they can give input and be heard. I think the antithesis of a servant leader is someone that, you know, imagine if I brought all of you into a room and we had a meeting on an important issue and I asked you for your feedback and we got a few key points that were really important, and then I made some decision that was completely different than what you had given me input on. And I've heard that again and again and again, and I'm, you know, in different circumstances. I've heard it at Berkeley, I heard it at Coast, I mean, I hear it at my alma mater, Colgate, where I'm involved in alumni activities. And so I'm aware of that, and we can't practice management that way. We have to be inclusive, we have to give people feedback, we have to make people feel that they have been heard, and that their input has made a difference. So, to complement that leadership style, I believe in having regular meetings with my direct reports. I believe in having working group meetings with my team, my staff, or colleagues on different issues. And I believe in really having an open door policy and being available. And I tell my staff, unless I'm on the phone or in a meeting, come and talk to me. I want to hear from you. When you're coming to talk to me, it means to me that you're working hard and you're doing your job, and you need to get my input on something. And so that open door policy has served me very well. So I really believe in developing staff. I've had, for example, a couple of student workers that have gone on to have full-time careers in higher education, and I feel personally responsible for helping their development and growth, and kind of giving them the raw materials that they need to build their career in higher education. So I know that servant leadership is somewhat of a, I guess, a buzzword, so to speak, but it's something that I really believe in terms of professional growth. I apply it in my teaching, and I apply it in my management style, and I really believe in the book there's a section that Greenleaf talks about where there's a hypothetical conversation where someone comes in and asks a question. Well, what do you do here? And the response is, well, we're in the business of growing people. And by the way, we happen to make and sell things at a profit that pays for all this learning and growth that we do. And because we focus on this, we are able to attract the best and the brightest people, and because of this, they never want to leave. Now, I'm paraphrasing the quote, and that sounds somewhat utopian, but that should be the idea, that you promote your staff, you promote their growth, you support them, you give them input, you focus on their advancement, and that's how you can keep and retain people, and also the word gets out that you have a great organization and that people want to come and work for you. So that's been my approach, and I really love to practice it. I'm actually teaching right now a seminar in sports leadership at Berkeley, and we've been surveying lots of other different leadership styles, and it's been very compelling to hear students talk about it, because we have case studies where we'll talk about different sports. So we did, like, for example, we did Branch Rickey, who brought in Jackie Robinson at the Dodgers. We did Jesse Owens, who won the gold medal, and kind of contradicted all of Hitler's theories about the quote-unquote Aryan race and so forth. So it's been fun to look at different leadership styles. So I mention this because I'm always open to new ideas and new suggestions about ways to practice and develop and train and grow our staff. Thank you.
I am curious to know what your background is in working with unions. Thank you.
Sure. Well, my experience in collective bargaining began in October 2002 when I joined the County of Orange as a director of operations for the Office on Aging, which was a really great opportunity to get involved in public service and government administration. And so in that role, I developed relationships, because in in that position, I was responsible for the human resources functions, and I had inherited some issues that had been evolving for years, so that were kind of involving some collective bargaining concerns with staff, and so I developed relationships with the staff union there, which were very fruitful, and kind of the whole idea of just understanding employment issues, workplace issues, learning about the contract, and really trying to understand what it meant to be part of a union, and you know, what were the issues that a collective bargaining organizations face. So I built some good relationships, and it was something that was part of my work, but it became much more, I guess, amplified coming into the Coast Community College District, given the work that I did with the board and the fact that there was multiple contracts in place. So there were 3 main contracts. We had a part-time faculty contract, a classified staff contract, and a faculty contract. And I actually developed relationships with all 3 of those presidents, because they were obviously engaging with the board. So they would want meetings with trustees. They would want to talk about workplace issues, you know, and certain things. There were opportunities to get involved. So I was able to get to know all of them. And actually, I had to work closely with the classified president, because as I explained to the search committee, one of the things that I did was we did some restructuring in my office, and we modified a couple of positions from confidential positions to classified positions, and there was some sensitivity in that because of the contracts and so forth. But it was a good opportunity to work with the classified employee president. So those experiences have been very rewarding in terms of understanding contracts and workplace issues. Because of my relationship as the secretary of the board, I was also involved in all of the closed session discussions, so I knew about all of the issues of the collective bargaining, the contracts. I also was very actively involved in the, some of the more serious issues of employee discipline and things that were obviously governed by a contract, the procedures and things, so I had to become familiar with those. And the different investigations that were occurring and so forth. So I had many opportunities to kind of get involved in this collective bargaining environment, and I became very, very sensitive to things like workplace issues, different complaints that would be filed by the unions on certain things, and I learned a lot of about understanding those different types of issues. So I really enjoy the collective bargaining environment. At Berkeley, we also have a number of organizations that have been involved in it. I'm not as involved in it as I was, but it was something that I really enjoyed and appreciated, and it was also exciting. One of the things I don't know if any of you have met an attorney, Neil Bodine, but Mr. Bodine, he's from Sacramento, but Mr. Bodine was a consultant, and he actually helped us develop some interest-based bargaining, collective bargaining strategies that were helpful and new ways to look at collective bargaining, because there were some strained relationships. So we were trying to find ways to improve those things, so we could mutually identify joint issues that could be bargained on collectively. So, yeah, so thank you.
I have a question. I'm just curious, in the transition from a prestigious university to a community college, what do you think you will miss the most and the least about your current position at UC Berkeley and in transition of coming to a two-year college?
Well, I think in terms of what I would miss the most about Berkeley, I wouldn't say there is one specific thing. I'll miss the fact that it's a very collegial environment, and there's a lot of work to be done. So I would say that's one thing. I think in some of the professional development systems that have been established, I'll miss interacting with some of those things. For example, there's a very it's a robust program through the Haas School of Business, a senior leadership training program for managers that was established, and so that's something that I'll miss. But really, I'm really here in terms of the idea of coming back to community colleges largely because of an interest in being closer to the community and being able to make a broader impact on the work that I do. And I feel that the work that I do in the colleges is a little bit closer to the students and to the people that we serve. And so that's what's going to excite me about this role, and I will not miss that part of Berkeley where I'm kind of in this really big operation that I don't see the daily impact of my work that makes the difference. I mean, I know it does make a difference, and we have people that really care and that are deeply committed. There's no doubt about it. But it's the bureaucracy, I think, limits the impact that you can have independently on the work that you do. And so that's something that I felt a little bit distant from in my career, and I miss that closeness. So those, that's part of Berkeley that I probably will not miss that much. But it's been a nice experience there, and it's extremely professional, very engaging, very compelling, lots of creativity, and I think I've learned a lot of things there that I could apply in the role here in terms of management, thinking outside the box, working on revenue opportunities that we've talked about, and other things. So, thank you.
And I'd like to hear you talk a little bit about shared governance and the 10+1 and the Ed Code.
So I deeply miss. Okay, I mean, I wish someone would ask a question. What do I miss about working in community colleges? Because I deeply miss my relationships with the Senate presidents and the academic senates. As part of this 10+1 relationship and their relationship to the board, they were quite close to the work that I did, and I had relationships with. We had 3 colleges, and I had relationships with each of those individuals, and it would be great because I could get feedback on things. I could run ideas with them. We could talk about accreditation or other things the board was looking at. There was always something exciting to talk about related to academics. But in answering your question, the relationship that the Senate has to the board and to the governance structure is something that I see as very, very critical. And I worked with a number of academic Senate presidents that were very, very focused on AB 1725 and really focused on that relationship, that direct line through working with the board and consulting collegially with them. And so that's something that I feel that's very important for the Senate, and I definitely, I value the relationship that it has as part of the governance structure, and I think it's a key component in every college's functioning, as well as the district's functioning. So it's something that I really value significantly. That those relationships, again, I cherish them. And I deeply valued the opinion of the Senate presidents that they would provide at meetings. And there were a number of occasions in working in my previous position where they were extremely outspoken about different issues that we were confronted with. And those opinions were heard as much as possible. There were a number of times also where we were trying to work on different policies, and this relationship was very helpful because we got good advice from the Senate presidents not to do certain policies that we were considering, or to at least reevaluate the processes that we were trying to follow. So yeah, I'm glad you asked that question because we didn't talk about the senates in the other day. And that was like one of the last meeting I ever had at Coast was with 2 academic Senate presidents. They took me out and wished me well in my new role, and they said goodbye to me. So those were very, very good relationships. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Could you please, I know you come from a multi-college system with your community college experience, could you please let us know how you intend to advocate for DVC when it comes time to dividing up the pie from the district office with our other 2 colleges in our district? How are you going to be able to advocate, and how are you going to be able to advocate effectively for DVC?
Okay. Yeah, thank you. This question came up a little bit today in meetings with Chris and Peter, and the idea of how do we advocate at the district level? And I think the most important thing is communication. So establishing a really strong communication line with the district office, and you know, I know that those protocols are in place, but how do we communicate? How do we promote what we do? How do we focus on our strategic plan and promote that? How are we creating new programs that we can ask the chancellor and the board to fund or to consider? You know, these are things that we need to promote. Okay, and so I think it's all with how we develop our strategic plan. I firmly believe, having been teaching strategic planning for a while and working in different organizations, I firmly believe that we can't go to anyone and ask for anything unless we have a reason to ask for it. I mentioned this to the search committee the other day, but I have this motto when I teach. It's like, I tell students, I'm not interested in your opinion. And then they all look at me crazy, like, are you nuts? Then I pause and I say, well, of course I'm interested in your opinion. I want to hear from you, but I want you to give me some reasoning and some facts to back up your opinion, to explain why it is that you want to do what you want to do. So I really feel that looking at issues that way and working with the board and working with the chancellor, we can advocate different things. We can work with the Office of Institutional Planning to understand our student data, issues with our faculty, productivity and workload. We can look at different programs that could be created with funding. One of the questions today was the reserve and what is the prudent use of the reserve. You know, if the reserve is accumulating significantly to a very, very high level, could we create some creative programs as seed money that could be funded through outside sources? I mean, there's all types of different things that we could consider or discuss or evaluate as educators. So I've learned through my years working in governance that we can't just go and ask for things. We have to be very composed and very focused on what it is that we want. And I think it's derived in the campus's strategic planning initiatives and how we build our budget, how we run our accreditation, because I know you have a self-study going on right now, how we are doing that, and how that all aligns with what we're trying to accomplish here. Okay, and then asking the district office for that support. So, you know, those are things that are important. I mean, I know advocacy is very, very critical. During the American Reinvestment and Recovery Act, you know, we wanted those workforce development dollars, and Coastline had the WIB, and we were able to advocate in Sacramento through Jack Scott to get those monies channeled through the WIB, so we could manage those funds. I mean, this is just one example of advocacy. One of the things I did in my last job in the colleges was to be involved in legislative advocacy to some extent. We had a lobbyist. So the ask was always part of the, you know, what are we asking for and why do we want it? So I'm really excited about having those conversations and promoting the college, but I think it's deeply rooted in our strategy and what we stand for, and articulating that and being aligned in order so we can make a compelling argument. Thank you for that question. That's a good one. I hope accreditation is going well, by the way.
It is, as a matter of fact. You said you were involved with that. I'm going to do a quick follow-up then. Could you tell us the extent to which you were involved with accreditation at Coastline?
So at Coast Community College District, I was staff to the board's accreditation committee. After one of our colleges was put on warning in 2008, we were kind of reevaluating that issue at the board level. And so the self-studies and then the resulting follow-ups became really focused. So that period from 2008 to 2010, we were focused on finalizing the recommendations from the accrediting commission, and then beginning the stages for the self-study, which took place in 2012. So that particular college, which was Orange Coast, their accreditation was reaffirmed in 2010, and then we began the process for the self-study. So obviously this was managed at the college level, so I was not directly involved in the self-studies with the college, but I was actively involved in writing the sections pertaining to Standard 4, which was the board governance, and in working with the college representatives to develop project management plans for ensuring that each different piece of the self-study was going to be in order and then ready for it to be submitted to the commission. And right about the time I came to Berkeley was when they were just about finishing those. So I've spent a lot of time studying the different standards. We were very concerned about each college's interpretation of the standard and whether or not the college felt it was meeting it. And if we felt the college was not meeting the standard, we wanted to know the reasons why. we wanted to really dig into that and try to understand it as part of our committee work. And then we were tracking a list of all the standards that they were concerned that they were not meeting. And I've learned a lot from accreditation. And one thing I'd like to say to you all about accreditation, it's the standard. It's not the law. It's the standard. Your lawyer can tell you that you're meeting the standard, but if the commission says you're not meeting the standard, you're not meeting the standard. And you can sue them all you want and argue with them. It's the standard that is the issue. And I've from my experience at Coast, that's something that I've learned and I really believe in. I know that right now at Berkeley, your counterpart at Berkeley is in my office. So we're going through the same thing at Berkeley with an accreditation visit from WASC that's coming up in the fall. And I did have the pleasure of writing a little portion, just not too much, but a little portion of our self-study, which was fun. But it's a really great exercise to go through, and I really believe in those standards. And I know that the commission has been taking a lot of heat because of the controversy in San Francisco, but I still believe that fundamentally they're on the right track in terms of the standards and measuring them. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
We've heard from several candidates. I'd like to know what you'd say to, I'm the best candidate for DVC at this particular time.
Oh, so to say why I'm the best candidate?
Why do you think
Okay.
you would be the best candidate at this time?
So this is a great question, and another way to say that is, why should we hire you?
Yes.
So when I'm back at Colgate for alumni meetings doing mock interviews, I always ask that question in my mock interview at the end. Why should I hire you? Okay, so I want to thank you for that question. I feel that I'm the best candidate given my years of experience working in budgets, administration, personnel, and that I feel grounded in the regulations, the commitment to following policy. But that aside, given my experience as an educator, my commitment to teaching, my commitment to developing staff, my commitment to bringing people together and to building a sense of community within the groups that I manage and the colleagues that I work with, and really trying to make different projects, learning projects, again, as I said, not just work, bringing development into the work that we do. What can we learn from this project? For example, when we're doing something, okay, we want to get it done, right? We want to get it done right. But it's not just about getting it done, it's about reflecting. Okay, when I spoke to the search committee, I talked about a concept called thinking gray, which was espoused by Dr. Stephen Sample in his book, The Contrarian's Guide to Leadership. This idea of pause, reflection, really thinking things through. What are the problems that we're confronted with, and why do we need to solve this issue? Why are we doing this? Okay, it's like a student. Okay, if you ask a student, why did you do this assignment? And most of the time they'll say, oh, well, because you told me to. And I'm like, well, that's right, but that's not the real reason why we're doing it. There's a higher purpose. So I really feel like bringing that higher purpose and zeal to the work as the Vice President of Administrative Services, and I would really like to apply that, and that I bring that to the table, in addition to balancing budgets, in addition to following personnel rules, and making sure that we meet the FON number, and that we comply with the 50% law, and that we understand all of the rules and regulations of Title V, and that we can develop a new strategic plan, and that we remain accredited, and all of these things. What is the higher purpose? What is the value that we add for our staff and our students as we transform lives? And so I will take that every day in my work that I do with the real purpose, okay? And in the community colleges, I feel that I can be greatly effective in that. And I'm quite excited about working for a community college in the Bay Area, which is a very dynamic place, a very diverse and dynamic place, with still, even with all the things that we've been through in California, still a place of tremendous opportunity. So that's what I bring. That's what I bring to the table. I feel like I take on projects with enthusiasm. I try to maintain a positive attitude, an open door, flexibility, and eagerness to hear and receive new ideas. That to really be open to suggestions and ways of getting things done as I do my work. So that's why I think I'm the best candidate, and these also, in addition to why I think I'm the best candidate, it's why I really want the job, because I would really like to apply all of these things in the job and to make a difference.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.